Good morning, everyone. Welcome. My name is Menachem Creditor. It's my honor to serve as scholar in residence and rabbi for UJA Federation of New York. We bring you Torah and music, blessing, and community every weekday. We've been doing so since March 18th, 2020. Today it is April 15th, 2025. It's broadcast 1282. Penny, I see you. I know. Thank you so much for keeping count all these very many days. Kate, it's good to see you too. Shush, welcome. Shari, good to see you. Let's see who's here, friends. We'll get started. Shari, today is day 30 in the hospital. Please, God, you'll be transferred to a rehabilitation facility soon. They will help you walk again. Amen, amen. You will dance after you walk. Maybe while you're walking, you'll be dancing, but right now you're sharing with us, sending you lots of strength. Boker Tov. Chana, sending love to Jerusalem. Adele, nice to see you. Tara and Debbie, Marilyn, Dale, Boker Tov. Siona, it's good to see you. Helen and Anna, Jack and Sunday, Cynthia, Rosa, Boker Tov. Let's say hi to everybody and then we'll get started. Debbie, nice to see you. Lydia, Rose, Carl, and Minna. Amy, good morning. All right, friends, let's take a breath. We're going to sing a bracha. Let's learn some Torah today. Let's see if we're at all tuned. Pretty close. Let's take a breath, sing a bracha. All right, everybody. So I see some people saying Chag Sameach, some people saying Moed Tov. First of all, it's good to see all of you. I see a lot of us, Arlene and Kim saying Hineni. Let's take a second, locate ourselves in time. It is broadcast 1282. It is day 557 since October 7th. It is the first day of Chol HaMo'ed, and that might be a term that not everyone knows. So let me spell it out just a little bit. And a very special hello to my dear friend and colleague, Lynn Light Geller, who is literally across the hall from me in her office, joining us from right here. She and I had a conversation about Pesach that I'll be sharing something from in a second. Chol HaMo'ed, this in-between time, between the first 2 days in the diaspora of Pesach and the last 2 days in the diaspora of Pesach. In Israel, it's between the first day, which is a full holiday, full Yom Tov, and the last day, full Yom Tov. We have these intermediate days, and that's actually a great translation. They're the in-between days, because they are both Chol, which is the word for weekday, and Moed, which is the day for holiday. Somehow we are in a space that is both not the holiday and also very much. These are days that are Pesach. We don't eat chametz during these days. We say Hallel, the special praise psalms, and we observe different parts of Pesach. Shouldn't work so hard, I think, is what the holiday might be saying to us, to, my colleague Lynn. I'm literally looking at her office while I look at her on my screen, and with me. And it is important for us to recognize that Jewish tradition has these in-between categories. It does. There are days that are not quite this and not quite that. There are even times. We have a phrase called Ben Hashmashot, between the luminaries, between when the sun sets and when you can see the moon, meaning it's not day and it's not night. It's in between. A wonderful phrase to describe this is when Tinkerbell says to Peter Pan at a certain moment of the story, when he's afraid he won't see her again. She said, "Those times that are in between asleep and awake, that's where I'll always be there with you, Peter." In these in between moments, what philosophers call liminal space, we have an in betweenness. Actually, Rosa just said it so beautifully. The whole Pesach has felt like that these past 2 years, bittersweet. And that is very much the point of what I wanted to share. Um, a little bit of Torah to lead into it. Lynn and I were just talking because you might have seen on the news, everything's fine, but there was construction next door to our headquarters on 59th Street. And we were concerned because the construction affected the basement level of our building, and we were concerned for a little bit. Was it safe? God forbid, was it unsafe? Turns out it was safe the whole time. We were doing our due diligence just to make sure that all of our colleagues and anyone who would be visiting the building would be cared for. We took a few extra steps and told the staff not to come while we were double checking. It was everything correct. But in that in-betweenness, we had a situation, a very interesting halachic situation, a question in Jewish law. What happens if the chametz, let's say you have a loaf of bread. I don't think anyone on staff had a loaf of bread in their office, but food that isn't kosher for Pesach in their space. And then they weren't allowed to be in their office space. And then they would come back to the office during Passover. They weren't able to clean out their office. Nobody was. So what happens? Now, it turns out we were able to get back into the building before Pesach, and so people who were really concerned could take care of this. But we weren't sure that was going to be the case. So the question is, what do you do when you have every intention of fulfilling the holiday, but you can't actually because ultimately um, you don't have the ability to get into your space? Well, what do you do? Well, there's this very interesting tradition. I spoke about this before the holiday. When we do the search for chametz, it ends with a paragraph in Aramaic called Kol Chamira v'Chamia Diika Birshuti. All the chametz and yeasty stuff that I have in my home. And you would say to yourself, if you're thinking logically, which is not where we're going, but thinking logically, if I have it, I'm responsible for it. Because you're not allowed to eat chametz during Pesach, you're not allowed to have chametz during Pesach, you're not even allowed to see chametz during Pesach. Which is an interesting question. If you go to a supermarket during Pesach and you see bread, have you transgressed the rule? And the answer is no, because that bread doesn't belong to you. Well, that's actually what the paragraph does when you say Kol Chamira v'Chamia, when we search for chametz. What you're saying is anything, anything that we have, that we chametz, that we have, that we saw, that we didn't see, that we found, that we didn't find, it doesn't count anymore. There's a kind of magical thinking where the category of any chametz that was in my office that I couldn't take care of actually no longer existed. It didn't belong to me because I said so. It's a kind of an in-between thing because it's right there. And yet, it doesn't count. It is chametz, but it isn't chametz. And if it is chametz, it isn't mine. It's a way of saying, I don't see you. You don't count. I did my best, and that changes the reality in front of me. Chol HaMo'ed, a day that is both very weekday, I'm at work, and also Moed, a holiday. I'm mindful that it's Pesach. I'm eating specific things. I'm praying a certain way. This in-betweenness says everything about this moment too, as Rosa pointed to before. It's broadcast 1,282, so 1282. That is an exciting thing for us to have accomplished, but we remember, especially those of us who've been part of this community all 5+ years, we know that we only started this in a moment of desperation to find each other. It was during the pandemic, 1 week in, that we created this community. And it is day 557 since October 7th. We have counted every single second of every single hour of every single day since that. And I say so as someone who is viscerally connected to Am Yisrael, and I'm sure you are too, to our people's story. And what do I know from feeling this when it comes to the family members whose children are still in tunnels for 557 days? Just yesterday, Jonathan Polin, Hirsch, Zichrono Livracha, Hirsch's beautiful father, wrote something that he had meant to publish last May about the situation. And here we are on our second Pesach. Our second Pesach. How can I celebrate freedom when we aren't free? I can't. I can't. And I can. How can I have Pesach if in my office there is chametz and I didn't want to own it? Well, I don't own it, even if it's there. How can I celebrate Pesach? I must, even though I can't. And I learned this best by looking at my beautiful son's face during Seder. Micah's face. And if you know Micah, you know this is true. And if you're blessed to meet him, you'll understand it in a heartbeat. Some have the tradition when we have maror, the bitter herbs. We chop fresh horseradish. Some people have the tradition to have it with charoset, the sweeter stuff, at that first bite. But some have the tradition, especially the last 2 years, to just have the maror, to just eat the maror. I watched Micah, and he had the maror, and he closed his eyes, and he was just in it. The intensity of the bitterness, that's one part of it. But the deeper part of that was happening in an invisible way. We, our sweet family, were free to have Seder. We're in a world where Am Yisrael isn't completely free. It's kind of like a Chol HaMo'ed, even on the full days of Yom Tov this year. Because how is it possible that I have 2 Haggadot from the Hostages and Missing Families Forum? How is it possible that Jonathan Polin wrote a powerful piece May of 2024 that he still had need to publish today? How is it possible for us to celebrate freedom when within our history we aren't yet free? And how is it possible for us to remember that the fight for freedom requires radical empathy even in the immediate expression of the holiday itself? Our people stood in that liminal space by Yabasha B'toch Hayam. They stood on dry land in the middle of sea. How can you do both? How can it be Chol and Moed, weekday and holiday, free and not free, dry land and water? Chametz in front of me and it doesn't exist. Tradition tells us, and halakha, Jewish tradition, has always guided us to navigate this liminality, this in-betweenness, because what is life anyway? Tinker Bell said it best, in between asleep and awake. We as a world, friends, are in between asleep and awake, and the journey towards freedom is the journey towards being fully awake. I hope that for you, Adrian's pointing out that she added a lemon to the Seder plate, as did we. Rachel Goldberg Polin, the beautiful matriarch of our people, taught us to do that. She suggested that we do it. I see Rabbi Cantarisa did it too. Arlene did it too. Patricia did it too. And the lemon says it all, doesn't it? It is beautiful. And it's sour. We are beautiful. The world can be beautiful. The world has to wake up completely. We are in between. We are in between. We are living in real time. We are in between asleep and awake. We are in Chol HaMo'ed. Some have the tradition of not putting tefillin on, phylacteries, right? The leather straps, for those who don't know. We have the tradition of placing tefillin on every weekday, but some don't do it during Pesach because we already have the beauty that tefillin is meant to represent. We are it. Well, may the world be closer to that, to the beauty, to awake, to free. I invite us just before we sing to consider the ways in which we are in between. What is the clarity that we need? What is the direction we believe the world should move? How can we be a part of that on this march through water, demanding that the sea parts, standing in liminal space on the threshold of freedom? What can you do, friends? I'm asking you as an individual, as part of this great collective in our community, in our world. What can you do to make the world a little bit more clear in the most positive of ways, especially for those in the most vulnerable of spaces? What can we do? Pray a little bit more deeply, lobby a little bit more effectively, give what you can of your time, of your means, be present for our people, be present for all people, stand for those whose freedom is threatened. We are all friends in liminal space, in between asleep and awake, and we are called. So I invite you to think about this very deeply today. Tomorrow we'll keep on learning for Chol HaMo'ed. Today's question, at least the way that I am feeling it most deeply, and I offer it to you, is in this in-betweenness, in this liminality, in this threshold moment, where we close our eyes and it feels like we are just a little bit too asleep. How can we wake up a little bit more? And how can we help our world wake up too? Send your hearts to the east, friends, on this 557th day. Let's double down on hope. Kol hod baleva pnima nefesh Yehudi homiya ulfate mizrach kadima ayin letzion tzofia od lo avda tikvateinu התקווה בת שנות 2000 להיות עם חופשי בארצנו ארץ ציון וירושלים להיות עם חופשי בארצנו ארץ ציון Virushalayim. Bring them home now. Am Yisrael Chai. Moed Tov, my friends. See you tomorrow.